episode 7.
Which is Dream and Madness. And we start off with Hera in front of the Council of the New Republic. Politicking.
Yes.
I will say they did better with her as far as her reading the room, which I was pleasantly surprised and glad to see, instead of
I'd
talking
say this,
mess.
overall, this whole scene worked better.
Yes.
I feel like all the characters in play just were a little bit more grounded. It's still sort of like cartoony level politics a little bit, but it still came off better. Hera definitely seemed like she was an adult that understood that she had to play the game.
Yes.
I did not like the resolution at all.
Okay.
Because the whole thing is
the
like,
special appearance part.
I'm not upset by the special appearance. I'm sort of upset by just how easily it was resolved.
But with this show, that makes sense.
Yeah, because it's not a politics show, right?
Yeah,
it's not a politics show.
Like the way Momothra pulled to the side and like, hey, it was what we were thinking. You know what I mean? She spoke for us in a way. It was kind of funny that it's like, okay, I'm in the show and I got to acknowledge how this is kind of.
Yeah, because the whole setup is C-3PO shows up and he's like, hey, I've got this special, message from Senator Organa, which is a
Princess
very
Leia.
clever way of getting around the fact that Carrie Fisher's not with us and we don't. And they're not going to do, at least they're not doing here, they're not doing a body double, they're not recasting, they're not doing CGI.
Right.
But Anthony Daniels, and that was actually Anthony Daniels doing C-3PO.
Yeah, it was
he's
so
like,
good.
Hey, I've got this special clearance, Senator Organa gave permission for Hera to go do her escapade. And then the thing you're alluding to afterwards, like Mon Mothma was like, did she write that before or after you got back? She's like,
she wrote it.
She wrote it, right? And like my issue is not that. My issue is not that. That shows that, Leia and Hera and even Mon Mothma, because Mon Mothma doesn't go, oh, it was a ruse, oh, we have to do this the right way, that they're more interested in sort of protecting the Republic than being bureaucrats, which has its own problems. But my issue is more that just like everything's Hera didn't solve it.
Yeah.
If the setup was Hera reached out to Senator Organa and said, hey, I need coverage. Can you write me this order that said I was allowed to go and do this retroactively?
Right.
That's a scene we don't see. We just get this twist where it's like, oh, right, we outplayed it. And if it was a different genre, right? If it was a different setup where we're expecting sort of twists and turns, like if it was a thriller, right? Where, oh shit, it was this the whole time.
Like Andor?
If it was Andor a little bit, yeah, it would be a little bit more like, oh, we set up this thing, right? And now, the thing with a good twist, like if you do it right, either it makes you go back and rewatch the whole rest of the movie, or you put it earlier in the story where then you can play out all the consequences. Where it's like, either I tricked you and now you're upset, or I tricked you and I have to do all these other things to cover it, right? There's no play out there. So it's like Hera is presented better in this scene, but we still don't get a scene where she's struggling. She's confident because she's got this back pocket solution for her throughout the whole scene.
Right. Because it could have been a scene earlier on where she's, somebody's in the room and they're like, why are they here for? And they could have been like, deliver this message, get it to as soon as possible. And when you see her calm and not acting like her normal self, how she's usually boastful and all that kind of stuff, it could be her waiting it out to keep it simple, because she's trying to draw out the conversation until she gets the resolve of the message that she sent. And here it comes. Oh, I hear that voice. And then she could start kind of puffing up again like she normally does. Something. Right. And you'd be like, oh, that's why that person or that messenger was there. And I was wondering why, we walked in on the tail end of that and didn't really hear clarity of what the purpose of that was,
Right.
Something.
Like there's tension in the scene, in the idea that, oh, you can have your commission stripped away. But Hera never feels like she's in peril. Like nothing in her performance was like, oh shit, okay. All right. Well, oh god. Hopefully, I can work my way through whatever. She's just able to be calm and relaxed because she's got C-3PO coming in to save the day.
Yeah. So like I said, I've seen her at least. Like I said, to me, she felt like she read the room more so than she normally did in other situations.
Yes.
Which I'm glad, but it was interesting. When that kind of pops up. I thought it was interesting. Mothra was even kind of like saying like wondering like how serious is this situation. Like I would have thought that would happen in their first conversation when they were talking, that she would have either one asked her that then, or two already knew that she doesn't play, and if this is coming up, it got to be a real thing. And that's why I'm on the side of her and leaning, even though I can't say it to the rest of the council. I'm saying, or even say to the counselor, I believe her. Like she's been through all this stuff, she wouldn't know. And is it worth us risking her to be wrong, to lose everything? Something. Like it's almost like she don't know her or know anything of her, and she got to guess and don't know if it's a trick or not. But she already knows the inside baseball. You already know that they have connections, and like, oh, I know this, that she didn't have this before. Or I know that, so she knows her like that, or know the situation like that. She's behind the scenes herself. So if anything, she should know, and everybody else don't know what's going on, and that's not used like that. And so to have her kind of not knowing and in question when she's like, funding the resistance and all that other kind of stuff, it's interesting that they would downplay her as if she's like those rest of those council members that just shows favor, and not really knowing, like ignorantly kind of, well, she's a sweet kid and sweet general or whatever, and we should just take her word for it. It should be like, I have extra notes that you don't have, but I can't let you know that I have those notes, but I will help guide along, this to go through without making myself stand out. I'm giving resistance to deflect, but not that I don't know, but I'm still going to kind of help it through.
Yeah. No, they
but different show. That's fair.
Different show.
Okay. They finally arrive,
and it's interesting because, of course, they're still inside the whale, and they're like,
right.
What are those noises?
Right.
Like, we are under attack.
Yeah, they're like, attack. Yeah.
And the hilarious thing is, like, all right, we need to get out of here, and it's like, how do you signal the whale to open its mouth?
Right.
Right? But it just opens up. They fly out, and of course, they're under bombardment. Right? The Purgle are like, fuck this, peace, we're out, and they, hyperspace jump out of there, and then they dodge their way through the minefield, go into the Purgle cemetery debris ring field, and they've got some
boneyard,
right? The elephant boneyard. They've got the fighter craft from the hyperspace ring coming after them, and they eventually like disappear and find a spot to hide. And here is where I have my biggest issue with how they portray Thrawn, because we're going to set up three things, and I'm curious of your take on this. So they hide,
yes,
and Thrawn basically has the three mothers use their Night Sister magic to track down Ahsoka where they are in the debris field so they can attack him.
Yes,
but he also talks about we need to essentially lead her by the nose so she goes where we want her to, right? Which is an absolutely 100% strategic approach, right? So outside of the show and just separately, I've been thinking a lot between like the difference between tactics and strategy, right? Because this is something we talk about in sword fighting all the time, right? Like a tactic is an individual move that gives you advantage or potentially disadvantage, right? It's your entire move set or all the tactics you can do.
Process.
Right? And there's parts of that where, like, we even talked about it with Ahsoka and Balin's fight, where, if you hold your sword back, it invites the person in. That is a tactic, right? But the strategy comes into, like,
how you use it.
Well, how you use it and against whom and why and when. So like my buddy Jeff sort of talks about it is like you have to set up a narrative with the person you're fighting, and the difficult thing is knowing who's controlling the narrative, right? You're essentially sort of like lying to your opponent, right? My intention is to hit you up on your right ear, so I'm going to go and swing a few times there, right? But false I'm actually a false pattern, right? Jeff was talking about how he was fencing one of our up and coming members. He's like, when I say up and coming, he's like getting gold at a couple tournaments. Like he's really good. But Jeff can beat him because Jeff lies about how he fights. And so through the first few exchanges in the bout, he thrusted on Andrew and just shorted his thrust intentionally, which was saying, I can't reach you. I can't reach you. I can't reach you. And then for the last point of the match, he thrusted far and fast, more like it's like I could hit you the whole time, right? But I got you to not think that I could hit you, so I can hit you, right? And so it's all these sort of strategic level things where you are changing the opponent's expectation of what's happening, lying about where you're strong and where you're weak, right? What things you want to protect, what things you don't care about, right? Where things are on the board, where I am, where you are, where the thing you want is.
Right.
So Thrawn sets up, we need to lead her where we want her to go, right? Because we don't want her to come to us. Right? As we find later, his whole thing is set up in the previous episodes. Like, we had to load all these corpses, right? Our cargo, and we needed her to burn time. So if she came here, we're in trouble. So we needed to lead her somewhere else. What did Thrawn actually do to lead Ahsoka anywhere else?
He didn't. That's why I thought it was interesting when he said that. I thought, okay.
He didn't do shit. This pissed me off because it was a writing hand wave, because we have that scene and then we cut to Ahsoka and now she has that moment of like, I'm going to reach out. I need to find Sabine. I'm going to use the Force. Maybe Sabine has, just gotten enough training where she'll hear me and I can make that connection and I'll know where she is, which is what happens.
There was no guarantee that was going to even work, though. That was
no guarantee that it was going to work, right?
Yeah.
Right? But like, Ahsoka figures out where Sabine is, and all Thrawn does is kick her out of her hiding spot.
Yeah.
Right? They find her with the Night Sisters. They send the fighters back in. Oh, we have to get out of here. And we go to Sabine. Thrawn did not control where she was going. He only kicked her out of her hiding spot, which if he wanted her to burn time, you leave her in her hiding spot. Right? Until you have a way to pull her by her nose, like with, say, a tracking device, or you have those troopers that are on their way to attack Sabine break protocol and use a busted encryption system and openly transmit, Commander Thrawn, we're on our way to the target, Sabine Wren, blah, 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 and give the coordinates openly, right? Leading Ahsoka to protect her apprentice and go away from the Star Destroyer. There was no actual move to follow the thought of, we need to control where she goes.
Yeah, that was definitely a shorthand to say that he's tactically, that's how he thinks. But yeah, I thought the same thing, because at first I was almost expecting like the ships are going to, stop looking for Ahsoka and just take off. And she's like, and where are they running to? And let's follow them and find out. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something. But yeah, it was just almost like something badass to drop, and we'll just leave that here. But then, yeah, they didn't really follow through, because then we got the same thing with Ahsoka jumping out of the plane again.
Oh well,
but anyway, but I thought it would be more to it too, and that did stand out to me, because when he said that leading her, I thought that was dope. But yeah, to keep watching it, that was no follow through.
And it was like, I felt like it was one of those things of like, if we just do these things, people won't realize he didn't actively do anything. or even passively do anything. It's just like, we should do this. And then Ahsoka solves the problem of her going to Sabine.
And it could be just, the fact that he put them, put Ezra and Sabine in danger and figured that Ahsoka would go try to save them. But that's almost kind of like she would go for their ship first before she would go out anywhere, you would think, logically. So I can't even give them that credit, even though I would kind of want to give a credit of, okay, they're under fire, she's going to try to save them. And I guess he's figuring that, some kind of way she was going to figure out a way to find and save them. But I don't know if that's giving too much credit.
She would have to know that they're in trouble.
I know.
Right? Now, theoretically, she could broadcast and be like, Sabine, can you hear me? Right? Over comms, but that gives away her own position.
But also, I guess he would know also that that Ahsoka is going there to find Sabine and not him necessarily. Like, I'm assuming he would think that would be his priority. But who's to say that she's even in danger?
Right.
Like I said, yeah. When I had to put the bridge together after the fact.
And Ahsoka would have to know Sabine is not on the Star Destroyer anymore.
Right, because that's the first place you would go to, because that's the biggest thing there, and that's where everybody would be, because he would probably grab her, trap her like a normal person would. Because the weird thing was him letting her go. That would be the thing where nobody would guess that he would do.
Right, so, and the other thing is, he would have to understand that she knew he was on the planet on his Star Destroyer and not checking the orbital ring first.
Yeah.
Right? If she thought Sabine was brought over on the hyperspace ring, then she would probably go to the hyperspace ring, which is their whole get out of jail, get out of this galaxy thing. So they didn't.
Yeah.
They had the characters say the right things, but not actually do anything to back it up, and it upset me. It disappointed me.
I get it. Like I said, I just took it as shorthand. They threw the line in there, and he did some other stuff that kind of shows he's tactically thinking and preparing for situations, and like I said, inspecting the board pieces. But yes, they did not follow through, and yes, that did stand out to me. But they kept it busy with a whole bunch of fighting and pew 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 stuff to kind of keep you distracted, because they did a lot of cutting between attacks and fighting and stuff.
The fighty stuff, we're even missing like Ezra's reunion with Sabine, because we get a little bit of it at the previous episode where she finds him, and then it's like boom, end of episode. But their banter, Sabine and Ezra's banter on that little roly-poly transport, it felt so empty.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's one of those classic, like, oh, the drama is the fact that one character is not telling the other character something.
Yeah, but they're beyond that, though. She's living in his apartment, playing with his toys, laying on his sheets, dreaming about this guy. Like, she can't even take awards because she's busy laying and pouting and thinking about him. And then to be so casual and double look, like, who else is over 2 feet tall? Nobody else is there. So it's not even like double taking, like, who is this? Like, that's the dude. He's the only person eye level. Everybody else is 2 feet tall. And so even that, I was kind of surprised. Like, this is where you're gonna be coy and kind of, no big deal kind of thing. Like, but I'll allow it. But even if they want to do the, like, look, they are like siblings to each other. Like, they're not gonna do a romantic thing. I'm like, okay, but like, I truly feel like these are two people who haven't seen each other in a decade that care deeply for each other, right?
And it's just like they're driving from one city to the other and they're talking about the weather, right? It did not feel amped up in the way that it should be. Like, if they wanted to play, they're hiding their feelings for each other. It was too subtle.
And if they're gonna do that route, then skip the whole build up where she finds those little creatures and she kind of befriends them and see they got the patch and, hey, we're on the same team. Do you know my friend? All that stuff. So we got to go through all that journey of stuff. So, if you're going to be casual, then don't give all that then, because that makes you think it's going to be a bigger thing once they do connect, because all the stuff she had to go to get there. But she finds them. Yeah.
Because like the whole thing with let's call them the rock people, our little insect buddies.
Yeah.
That's a little bit of cute little, like, we're gonna go and find some like Ewok little like space creature things. I'm like, all right, that's pretty Star Wars. I'm like, okay. But if you don't set them up, right? If you don't have Sabine bumping into them and they're the ones that Ezra's with and they got their little encampment, and now we care about these people, then we don't have anyone to come under attack in episode 7 when Shin sends the mercenaries after them and they're all under the attack. They'd just be like, who cares, right? We haven't set up oh, the little cute little insect kid, like there's no stakes, right?
But I'm saying I agree why they're there, but I'm saying as far as like for them to have all that in there and have this like making it as a journey for her, why does not, that would seem like it would lend into their encounter when they finally do see each other. It's not like she just bumped into him by herself quickly, but even that you still be happy and surprised. But they just kind of kept, slowing it down. Like you still can't just find him that fast, and he may not even be alive. And she runs into some enemies and get dismounted, and she's having banter with the animal that dropped her, and like it has any allegiance to her. So I'm talking about they stretch all that stuff out. Now I understand the thing about the like the roly-poly creatures, but I'm just saying for her to go through all that, it wasn't as simple. She didn't find him easily. So to finally find him and for it to be like a side-eye look, it was just kind of like
right. And it's like,
but
have it one of those things where it's like, have it where she feels like she expects X. Like when she finds Ezra, it's gonna be like this.
Right.
But actually, for some reason, something's off in the way that they're engaging, and it's like this. Right? Right? And it's like you got to find a way of doing it where it's like you don't make Ezra some broody asshole where it's like, like, well, whatever, you didn't come find me sooner, right? But it's just something's off where it doesn't feel like they're clicking in the same way, right? And but there's none of that. It was just like, oh, we're good buddies. We haven't seen each other in 10 years.
Right.
And
he was almost lighter than she was about it, which I thought was interesting. But also, her look at him and their kind of encounter, to me, it's like the same thing like I was complaining about in episode 5 when Jason used the Force, and only thing that Ahsoka says, like, I owe you a thank you. Like, that's not a whole conversation of you having the power to see that and you saved me from beyond and all. It's like that same thing. It's like these big moments that could be some insight or acknowledgement of the situation of this fantastical thing that happened, and it's just like, thank you. But it's the same thing to me in a way. It's the same thing. Like, okay, that's a way to deal with it, but it's interesting. I was expecting more because of that journey it took you to come from the other side and to come out and to have somebody telling his mom to stay and wait for you because they could have, all intents and purposes, just left because nobody was there. Nothing was there. They saw something happen, and it's almost like we better take off because if they're leaving, we can't be far behind them. So for that whole thing to happen, for folks to be held up and wait for the situation and save you from returning and nobody being there and you stuck on that planet, I think he deserved more than a thank you. Not to stay on that, but to me it's almost the same thing. She went through all this stuff. She betrayed people. She left her, her mentor behind. She probably went against her morals and the state of everybody and everything to fall for a person that she think may be alive. And to side-eye him after the journey she had, once she landed, she had a miracle of the person who had the sense to take her out say, go ahead and go off and find him. Like, it's almost too much.
It feels kind of half-baked.
It's like somebody starving in a desert and they just kind of, and they've been out there for weeks and they come across this little lounge and they have like, a little water fountain. and then they drink it and they'd be like, this is just tap water?
Right?
Like, is that the reaction you would have for not seeing water all that time? That's your reaction? So it's just kind of funny.
It seemed really sort of underwhelming.
It's just like they chose to do it that way, and I'm just kind of curious on what would make them think to do that.
I'm hoping it's not one of those things where it's like, we gotta have the big emotional moment between Sabine and Ezra in episode 8. It's like, yo,
no, that's not. No, I don't think
if they're gonna have a big moment, it should have been when they found them, right? When they found each other. But anyway.
Okay, so Ezra is saying like, hey, the way we stay safe around here is we keep it on the road. We keep it moving, right? So let's pack stuff up and let's get on the road. So they get the band together and they head on the road, and that's when they're catching up and like, what's happened since I've been gone? Oh, this happened and this happened, and this battle happened, and this has fallen, and this, and all that stuff, right?
Grew a beard.
Grew a beard. So that's when they had a little.
There were some people that were saying like his little chainmail sort of armor that he has was like, is that all stormtrooper like dog tags? And I was like, oh man, that's dark. That feels way too dark.
Interesting.
I don't even know if they have dog tags, so
yeah, that's interesting. They get under attack. They're trying to regroup.
They circle the wagons.
Yeah. And it was funny because it reminded me of like Luke and the Ewoks. They kind of under attack, and everybody's trying to
slingshots. So the funny thing is, one of them like pops out a slingshot and hits one of the mercenaries. So Ezra's like his starting weapon when he started the show, he had a little wrist-mounted slingshot that shot like energy balls. So that's a little callback. But most of the fighting in this segment within the wagons was kind of
Yeah.
Shin shows up, it gets a little more interesting, but most of it and I was trying to think about like why, and I think part of it was just in some fights you can track sort of people moving around the game board.
Yeah.
But it just felt like random shots of like, we're over here, we're over there.
Yes.
Now we're over there.
Every time they go away and come back, they're in a different situation. Because they needed to have them, behind the 8-ball, and they needed, somebody to come in and save the day. And it's almost cut weird because it's like you see Ahsoka doing her thing and she's running to Baylan, and then they have them getting bombarded, and so it's cutting between all these things. But in some kind of magical way, it lines up where, Ahsoka gets done with Baylan. I thought it was a good fight, and you could see where Baylan definitely had the edge over her, and she kind of knew it, and she's feeling lighter about this second encounter, and she kind of uses the environment and the firing on them to kind of take advantage of the situation and to get away, and it's not like Baylan's concerned about chasing her. He got other plans that he's
going after. He's already told Shin like, you're on your own, kid. I'm gonna go find the horrible dark thing that's offering me power.
And you call it in.
And he's like, don't get bloodthirsty.
Right.
Don't get bloodthirsty. You're gonna lose when you get bloodthirsty. Which is like, that's solid advice for anyone.
Yeah,
it kind of comes into play. The funny thing is like you were joking about Ahsoka like jumping out of the ship, which.
Even Hu Yang even made a comment like again, he's speaking for the audience. Like that's another meta moment
for anyone that's watched the Clone Wars series. Like Anakin, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka always do bonkers shit, and like there's a running joke of like the clones, like the clone commanders running interference on Obi-Wan just to distract him, so Anakin can go do some bonkers shit that he would say no to. Like straight up, so this is not, force jumps from like Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. Like it's not like, oh wow, she did this crazy thing. My quibble, if anything, with her sort of like fight with Baylan and Hu Yang helping out is like, how the fuck did they coordinate that? How? Was it just the plan was like Hu Yang's like, I'm gonna fly around for a minute and then come back and dump chaff on their location, which somehow Ahsoka will know I'm coming, right? Will not get hit, and that's her escape to run away, steal Baylan's thing, and get out. Like,
That's too dangerous. Like,
it's too dangerous. None of
Not
it's
worth the risk.
coordinated.
Right.
It'd be one thing if like Ahsoka had a ear comm link, and Hu Yang was like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
10 seconds.
Yeah.
Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Dropping chaff. Right, and that's her signal to like that. Just that little bit
Something.
of like if he just started like saying 5, 4, 3.
Hey, it's Jay. I'm back again for another one, and today I have with me
Ahsoka?
And we cut then to Ahsoka, and we can see the earpiece, and we can just barely hear Hu Yang going 2, 1, and then she jumps, and the chaff comes. I'd be like, yeah, fuck yeah, like you know me, I love like characters fucking coordinating shit. That would have been great.
Right.
Would have been great, but it just seemed a little contrived. There's a lot of stuff in the episode that seemed a lot of contrived, and then Balin's just like, all right, kid, good luck, Shin. I'm gonna walk because I've had my platypus wolf stolen.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna walk off.
Mm-hmm.
No, I hope this isn't one of those things, especially since Ray Stevenson passed away, that like we're gonna get some sort of like Balin finds a big, dangerous, ominous, looming threat
Of course,
on the planet.
Of course, that's what it's gonna be.
But then it's gonna be like, and then we never see him again because the actor's dead. I don't know.
At least we got some more information.
There's people going on about some ancient monstrosity aboleth thing.
But you know what might happen too? They could be, if they do that thing where he goes in front of the structure and everything. The way to bring the character back, he comes back changed. You know how the witches are bringing the people back? He can have a helmet and a face mask, and that's just him inside of there. And he got transformed by the whole thing. He's a whole different, like Megatron turned to Galvatron.
Megatron? Is that you?
Here's a hint.
He got taken in,
or even the Emperor like getting his face all messed up because of dark side stuff.
Or something, but, you know.
Yeah, he leaves, and then Shin is like fighting Ezra and Sabine, and Sabine's like, "Here, you should have your lightsaber," and he's like, "I don't need that anymore. The Force is my ally."
Okay.
And before we get too pissy, remember we've seen other people doing this trick, including Vader. Both fucking Rey and Kylo Ren did like, I'm just gonna block your lightsaber with the Force itself.
Yes.
So it wasn't a stretch of the imagination for me to be like, oh, he's blocking. He's okay.
It's not that it hasn't been seen. It's the fact that would that be the practical choice? Like you have the option, and you know you're better with something versus you hoping your focus is gonna be on point. You know, it's like, can I swim across the bay? Maybe. But if I got this speedboat, I'm going to take the boat. I'm going to take the boat because I might get a little tired halfway through. It might get a little cold in that water, right? I'm not flexing. I ain't trying to show off. I ain't doing it for fun. So you take the damn boat. You take the boat. You take the boat. So for him to be surrounded and outnumbered, and you talking about I only need the Force and Kung Fu, you crazy. You're crazy.
And he uses a blaster on the mercenaries and
eventually,
the stormtroopers.
After he used the Force and some Kung Fu. When he needs oh goodness.
It's just like, look, just take your lightsaber. I do feel like this is a case of the writers being like, no, we want Sabine to have the lightsaber, so have Ezra just use the Force. Like, all right, well, please make both of those choices pay off. Please make both those choices pay off. Yeah, and again, even the fight with Shin wasn't. It felt choppy. It felt choppy. And there's nothing about any of the actors that were involved in that. And then Ahsoka finally shows up, and it's like, you got played, bud. Don't mess with this. Like, and at least Shin's like, all right, we need to get the fuck out. Like, oh, all the stormtroopers are already running away. Peace. I'm out. Yeah. And she runs off, which is the smart thing to do.
But I thought it was interesting because it was a thing where Ahsoka almost gave her a chance to be like, hey, you know, come with me.
Yeah, that was a cool move.
And she paused too, and to kind of like gave it a, you know, like at least it showed like she even gave a thought. And it wasn't like a frown. It was more like contemplating and maybe slight confusion. But it wasn't disgust, or it wasn't like, you know, you're weak. It wasn't an obvious rejection of the thought. How about that?
Yeah.
which I thought was nice.
Yeah. No, I think the way they had Shin, you'd see the gears turning and considering that, and didn't like fuck you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna reject. She just nope, just walked away. Ran away.
Yeah. Due to Thrawn's orders, he was like, "Hey, we got the ship loaded. We're heading out. Peace." So, call back in the troops. Let's go. And then you like get a little moment of the three together again, and Sabine is afraid that Ahsoka's going to be upset of how everything went down, and she's like, "I thought you were dead." And you would think like, "Yeah, Heifer, you left me and you left me to die." But instead of that, she's like, "How can I miss this reunion with this guy here and you here too?" Group hug. Aww.
I actually didn't have a problem with that.
Me either. I'm being a smart butt, but I didn't either. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was interesting though.
It worked. But just everything else about this episode was just
Okay. We got one more episode to go, right?
Yes.
One more episode to go. I will say I did get a little bit more of Balin, which I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had a little bit more building of the character of Thrawn in this episode. Not perfect, but we did get more of him in it, and it wasn't like he was just standing still in a way. A task was at hand, even though we didn't know what it was, but it started off with a task and it ended with that task being completed, with him loading up that ship and almost saying like how everything went down. We needed them away, even though he's taking credit for something he didn't do, but they were away from the ship. They got a chance to do what they needed to do. I'm fulfilling my part of the deal.
83% done.
Yeah, they fulfilling their part of the deal with the witches, and it's time to peace out. Let's go home. Doesn't matter if they die, either by my hand or by the elements of this world.
Right.
Not my concern. Let's go. And I like that too, because sometimes people, lose their ship trying to get one person when they should just drive off and let the world handle them. So I thought that was even very
Again,
very smart how they handled that.
The things that Thrawn says, totally on point.
Yeah.
But just didn't actually do anything anyway.
Yeah. So, what is your feelings and thoughts? Well, we know our feelings of this episode, and I think we're both kind of on the same page. Serviceable, not bad. It's fine.
Yeah.
Still not the best use of time or story or plot. Was entertaining in a way, but it's just like, it's funny. Usually it's the other way around. Usually you watch a movie and you be like, "Hey, I wish this was a show so I get more." This is a show that I wish was a movie, and it's almost like the way it's playing. You could cut this up and still make a perfectly fine movie, 2.5 hours, and be fine, and it won't feel like it's killing time. Nobody's kicking the can, and it's weird because you would think that this would be better as a show, but they're not using the extra space. And if not, like I said, this would have been a good 2.5 hour movie. Matter of fact, if I had the skills or time, I would cut this up into a movie and cut all the stuff I feel didn't need it. And maybe that'd be a project we'll do together.
Oh man. I heard something where like, was it Topher Grace? Topher Grace took like, I think it was the prequels, and like, I forget what they called the cut, but he did like a consolidated cut, I think it was, of the prequels, and it's supposed to be like really fucking good. But anyway, like,
if that's the thing, I'm gonna try to find it. If you figure out the name of it, please let me know.
Yeah, I like when people go and take a body of media and then find their way to cut out anything that they think is not needed, right, just to reflect their sort of version on what's best for it.
I've seen the other way around too, where they've taken out like scenes that were in trailers that didn't come out, or deleted scenes, and they try to fold it back into the story too, which you get some understanding. And sometimes that's more obvious that it's being done, because sometimes the deleted scenes or the trailer stuff is compromised in a way. Either it's not completed or it got music behind it that didn't relate to how it was fit into the movie and stuff like that. So that could be a harder thing, but I've seen patch jobs of that kind of situation as well.
Yeah. God, what are they gonna do with this last episode? Ugh. They could do a lot. But like, it's the what things need to happen.
I'm still sticking to the thing where they're not really worried about giving us that, and they're going to put it all on that movie, which I don't think is fair, considering how much time was wasted.
We're not going to get a space battle. We're not going to get a big Thrawn space battle. That's off the table.
He's still trying to get off the planet, so
right. Yeah, I think the big thing is going to be like Thrawn's going to get back, so it becomes a question of how he gets back. So his Star Destroyer has to get up to the hyperspace ring. So I can't believe I didn't track this even earlier, but if you recall in the prequels, the Jedi have these little pointy starfighters, and they have detachable hyperspace rings. And this is the same thing. It's just a Star Destroyer with a giant hyperspace ring.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like a very clever callback. So it's going to go up and dock with the ring, and the whole thing's going to go. But once again, that's how Thrawn's going to get back. How are our heroes going to get back? Because they have a ship that is not capable of making that hyperspace jump. So either the Purgle somehow have to come back, which is then we got to set up why they come back, or they have to be on board Thrawn's ship. Either the ring or the ship itself.
Or the New Republic figures it out and comes and get them with the reinforcements.
But they don't have the coordinates.
Neither did she.
Neither did she had the Purgle. But that's just going down to Purgle. They could probably do some ridiculous stuff, but I don't. That's again setting up way more shenanigans.
Because they saw how she got there. She went and everybody else didn't, which was weird. Because I would have thought everybody else would have jumped into Wales as well, but they did not.
Well,
so you left more witnesses than.
But the Purgle have to come back to the galaxy for the New Republic to then use the Purgle to go back to the other galaxy, and that's assuming the Purgle want to go back.
A new set wouldn't be coming, or are they still coming over?
No fucking idea. I don't know if there's multiple pods of Purgle, but it just seems overly complicated. They're gonna have to get aboard Thrawn's ship, either the Star Destroyer or the hyperspace ring.
Mm-hmm.
So it just becomes a question of how that's going to happen. They have Ahsoka's ship, so they can clearly fly there. It's not going to be an issue finding, right? Because Sabine's like, well, I came from the west, so we just go to the west and we'll find it. Ezra probably knows where the tower is. That's not going to be an issue. So the other thing,
she could force talk to the Purgle and get a trip back. Doing it for. She talked to him in the first place to catch a ride.
But so if I was writing it where it's Thrawn's got a ride, and then we can just use the Purgle. Well, where's the fucking tension? Because the tension is
this show don't have any.
I know, Jay, but if you're trying to set up an episode that has some fucking tension,
right?
We just kind of know Thrawn's going to get back.
Yeah.
So that's not the tension. It's how our main character is going to get back when Thrawn controls the way to get back. So we have to get on his ship. So that either means they're going to fly their ship to Thrawn's ship, or they're going to fly and land at the base of the tower, fight their way up the tower, and then board the ship. That's a possibility.
Wouldn't tension also be for them just to be trapped there and you're just wondering what's going to happen next? How are they going to get out of the situation? When we return, that's what happened with Thrawn in the first place.
I don't think they're going to cliffhang as they're stuck there. And it's
I hope not, but...
Now we got to do another fucking show just for them to get back.
No, they're going to do a movie to get them back.
No. God, no.
I'm not saying I want that, but I'm saying... Okay,
the movie...
I understand what should be done, but... If we're going by what's been happening, we have 7 episodes to show us the mindset, the process, and mentality of this show, and how these characters move, and how they act, and how the show goes. What do you think they're gonna give you for your last one? They gave you you vanilla 7 episodes.
Here's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to set the board a little bit.
Okay.
They need to get on Thrawn's ship.
Right.
So they either fly and land on Thrawn's ship, or they go on foot and they go up the tower and they get on Thrawn's ship. It's the only way of getting literally on Thrawn's ship, which gets them up to the hyperspace gate. Okay. Thrawn also still has, it looked like, a bunch of fucking TIE fighters. So not even just the fighters from the ring ship. He's got TIE fighters.
Yep.
Which probably means they're not going to be able to take their ship because it will get shot the fuck out of the sky. Even if Thrawn's like, you know, only got a squadron of them, whatever. Now, let's talk about the thing you like, which is Baylan. Because if they just tease that Baylan finds some dark temple to some eldritch god thing, and it's just a tease,
yeah.
Well, who cares? Like, if we just leave that galaxy behind, who cares? But if he finds the temple and wakes something up and lets it loose, now we've got a giant monster that puts Thrawn and our heroes in jeopardy because it's going to eat everything, right? You might have the same scenario of the Night Sisters that have been whispering to Morgan. This thing's been whispering to Baylan. And now that Baylan's here and turns the key and lets it loose, it feeds on him first, and just all the promises were empty. And now we've got
Temple of Doom.
A la Temple of Doom, right? So now we have some sort of mystical threat, right? Maybe it's literally some giant creature. Maybe it's something that just can take on a fucking Star Destroyer, some monstrous force entity, whatever it is. It changes the stakes for everyone. So now we don't know if Thrawn's going to get out in time because this entity's in play. And now we don't know if the good guys can even get on the ship that is now in threat. So it's not just can we get on Thrawn's ship in time, it's can we fight off this monstrosity, right? Because we need that ship to get back to our home galaxy, right? That's a scenario where everything's up in the air, and just because we know Thrawn's going to come back and we know there's going to be a movie and Ahsoka's going to be in it later, it puts everyone in threat because we've set up this planet in this very hostile galaxy that everyone wants to get away from. And so that allows us to have Baylan find his thing. We get him resolved, whether that thing kills him or just leaves him behind, and then it's him being like, fuck, I got played. I too have fallen into this cycle of like screw ups and blah blah blah. And then everything else is upended, right? We like everything's under threat, right? Chaos. They figure things out. Action, pew pew pew. Let's all go home. There you go. That's my prediction. Thank you, everyone.
I think that's brilliant, but I think that's like expecting somebody who just learned how to ride a tricycle, jumping on a motorcycle, to jump over 10 cars. I have no belief at all that this show will pull off a stunt like that, considering what I've seen happen so far. What you said is brilliant. I think that makes sense. I think it's ideal. I think it's too good for the show, from what it's been showing us. And not even dogging the show, but I'm just saying, it has the weird trappings of looking like something and kind of acting like something, but it's a totally different thing. And I don't know if I don't think that's what this show is. It should be. I think that makes sense. But I haven't seen, like I said, we just got done having a conversation about how he wasn't clear about what exactly did he do to even steer Ahsoka to where he wanted her. So all this other stuff, where is that going to come from? The same person who just said that, let's lead her by the nose, and did nothing?
Man, I don't know.
I don't turn on my faucet thinking that Coca-Cola is going to come out. I just, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I'm really hoping this isn't.
I want your ending though. I want your ending. And if it, man.
I just don't want to fat. I was listening to some of our episodes from that the other day.
Okay. Okay. Just okay. Anybody?
He's rubbing his eyes, ladies and gentlemen. He's rubbing his eyes.
Okay. Even if it's being done for money, or if it's being done for love, anybody potentially that came across this, that was listening to us banter and cut up, and you have anything to do with that on that show, please hire Ryan. Help him help you, and in turn, you help us.
Jay, ideas are easy, execution's expensive.
No. I don't believe that. I just think that sometimes people get so used to eating junk that they actually think it's good for you, and it's not the truth. So sometimes that can happen, but it's interesting. Either, like you said, I think Thrawn is going to make it off, and I think that they're going to be left behind. But is it possible that they tag along and all that? Yeah, that'd be fine too. But then it's also a thing with time and everybody leaving, and I don't know. It's possible, but like I said, I don't know how competent the story is going to be or how it's going to end. Like I said, I think it's going to be unfulfilling only because they're trying to tie in a movie with this. If I thought it was no movie, I'd be like, hey, you're out of road. Ain't no way you can end this and it's going to make any kind of sense without having something else coming after it. And I don't know with these characters how you could tie it into any other shows that would come out before the movie. So I don't even have a landing strip to be like, oh, they have the show this here, and this could tie in to give you a little bit more. I think it's kind of like none of these characters could really fold into any of the shows that's coming out next that would kind of help keep this afloat until the movie starts. So I kind of think this is going to be on a pause until that movie comes with the answers or the fulfillment of the plot. So we'll see. We'll see. And like I said, I've been enjoying the show, but I do feel like it has been kind of playing with my time and not respecting my time in a way. And it's just unfortunate because it's a good premise, good characters and stuff like that, and some themes are there that are really cool. It just don't seem like it's in the right hands, unfortunately. And we also know that just because somebody might be good for an idea doesn't mean they necessarily know how to play it out. And there's nothing wrong with having extra eyes or minds on the situation to kind of help work that out or noodle it out. Sometimes when it's just your precious baby, you're blocking all outside stuff. And, unless you're just competent to handle everything, you can get off track, even with the best intentions. So it's interesting. Okay, I guess
who knows?
that's it.
Maybe they'll stick the landing.
Yeah. Who knows? Stranger things have happened, I guess.
I will be very happy if they stick the landing.
With that being said, that's been Jay and Ryan discussing Ahsoka Part 6, Far, Far Away, and Part 7,
Dreams and Madness.
And until next time, peace.
In another galaxy.